Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I'm going to be looking at the Blightlords, the eternal question: should we use swords or axes, and then how does this relate to the Armour of Contempt update if we're facing targets that can ignore 1 AP. So with no further ado, let's look at the data. So today is the 19th of April. Really overwhelmed, guys, with all the warm welcoming back from my a bit stasis or caught in the warp. Really glad for all your comments and enjoying the videos again. And I've been fun updating my data sheets for the new Armour of Contempt. Also seems like exciting Chaos times ahead with the Chaos Space Marines and the Chaos Knights Codex incoming. Also very fun to see if we can, seems like we can be bringing one Chaos Knight free blade, let's say, in Death Guard armies or Thousand Suns armies for that sake, but without losing the detachment rules and the specific benefits. And of course, very big thanks to all my patrons for still hanging in there and supporting me also during this bit down period. So today in this video I'm going to be looking at the Blightlord Terminators, basically focusing on their melee weapons in line with the Armour of Contempt rules. A lot of questions: is the sword now better or the axe? Depending now that the enemy, many times if we face marine armies, etc., they will be saving with 1 AP less, let's say. And now it's more even important for our Blightlords. Now that they have objective secure, we should maybe be using them more, and we will see more. I'm certainly warming up to the idea to use more the Blightlords with these new rules and their increased durability because they themselves get Armour of Contempt. So let's get started with the weapons. So the melee weapons for the Blightlords, basically we have the Bale Sword or the Bubotic Axe included in the 42 points. The difference between the Bale Sword and the Axe is that the Bale Sword has a 1 length strength, but it has a better AP value. They are both damage 1 weapons. They are both plague weapons. So basically the Bale Sword becomes strength 5, and the Bubotic Axe is a strength 6 weapon. Of course, as one melee option, the very strong Flail of Corruption. This has a strength 5, AP -2, and damage 2, and it makes 2 hit rolls instead of 1. It costs 5 points more, bringing the Flail Terminator up to 47 points. But I'm also be looking at that briefly to see that. I also read in the comments, is it still worth it against Armour of Contempt if we are getting, let's say, AP reduced to -1? If we look at the basics here, the Bale Sword and the Bubotic Axe, the Axe strength 6, the Bale Sword and the Flail strength 5. What is the wound roll? If we are counting that the enemy in melee is in contagion range, so loses one toughness. So basically we see that the axe will be wounding on 2 pluses for toughness 3 and toughness 4 base targets. So basically toughness 4 being brought to toughness 3. Strength 6, then you are wounding on 2 pluses, re-rolling the ones for plague weapon, unless you play salamanders, of course. And then we have for toughness 5 and 6 3 plus, then 4 plus for toughness 7, and 5 plus poor wound rolls for the very toughest, let's say, targets there. And we see here the sword and the flail. So for some of the targets, they are wounding the same. For example, toughness 3, toughness 5, and toughness 8. So we can see that the axe has the benefit for the better wound rolls for baseline toughness 4, 6, and 7 targets. So here we expect that it may be having an advantage here. And the sword has equal wound roll, as I said, for toughness 3, 5, and toughness 8. So if you play Death Guard or toughness 3, let's say Imperial Guard or something like that, and then the sword, then because it has the same wound roll as the axe, would be having an advantage, or at least being equal with the axe. With the Armour of Contempt rules, the axe becomes AP -1, and the sword becomes AP -2, and the flail also becomes AP 1. So looking at the melee weapons versus the General Yanis targets, now of course I had to remodify my calculations because some of these targets They have Armour of Contempt now. This is point corrected per 100 points because the Flail of Corruption here are also included. It costs a little bit more. So here we see the gray line is the damage per 100 points for the Flail of Corruption. The Flail of Corruption does better damage versus everything. It has double the number of attacks, and it has a damage 2 weapon instead of damage 1 weapon. So still, even if the AP becomes 1 for a lot of the targets, it still is the best option. So here are the previous General Yanis 31 targets, different targets here with different toughness and different saves. Here we have targets with invul saves, 4+, 5+ invul saves, and here we have targets with no invul saves. The red boxes indicate which models I have included to have Armour of Contempt. So typically the save 3+ is the Marines that are Armour of Contempt, or the Battle Sisters. We have here, for example, the Space Marine Captain with a 4+ invul save. If he has the shield, they don't get Armour of Contempt, so they don't get the extra benefit. Here we have Death Guard, Dark Guard targets. Of course, Death Guard is taking has discussing resilience, reducing the flail efficiency down to damage 1, and also the Armour of Contempt. And here we have more Death Guard, and here we have Thousand Suns that also benefit from Armour of Contempt. So first of all, as I said, the Flail Terminator is still the best in melee for damage output. Even paying the 5 points is not super much to pay to get the Flail. And now we can see for the targets with Armour of Contempt, this line here, starting with, let's say, toughness 3, going up to toughness 8. For most of the targets, we see the sword in orange is better from these typical Space Marine enemies like intercessors or aggressors or something like this. Then the sword now is better than the axe. The axe has the benefit for the targets with 4+ invul saves, let's say so if we have high invul saves, like for example Exalted Sorcerer, then the sword the axe is better, but the sword becomes more interesting for most of the targets. Something like Death Guard, if you're playing a mirror game, the sword seems to be the best choice here. And in this table, I'm just summarizing. Maybe you can take a screenshot here if you want to have this as a helping aid, if you want to plan a bit. So here is the sword versus the axe. Which one is best for the Blightlords? Of course, including that the enemy is within contagion of -1 toughness. If you soup, you don't get the same table. Here we see if we have some target here with various toughness and then save, and here they don't have any invul save, and here they don't have Armour of Contempt. So for example, if you take a toughness 5 with a 3+ save, for example an aggressor or eradicator, then the sword already today with no Armour of Contempt is better. The axe is better for toughness 7, toughness 6, and starting with if the enemies have poor saves, then the axe is equal or better than the sword. If you have the 4+ invul, then currently in the game the axe is better with no Armour of Contempt. The axe is equal or better than the sword for any combinations for the 4+ invul. But now adding here the targets with the Armour of Contempt, we see the green. You see the sword becomes more interesting for more targets. So basically almost anything with a 3+ save and no invul save, the sword is better or equal. Only toughness 7, the axe is a little bit better. You see the sword becomes more prevalent now with facing some armies with the Armour of Contempt, and also for the invul saves. If they have a very good save, then the sword can be better. But again, if they have a very high invul save, the axe can still do it and be a good option. So reaching to the summary and the final thoughts, as many have predicted, the sword becomes more prevalent and better than the axe when facing Armour of Contempt enemies. The axe is overall better versus targets with very good invuls, typically 4+ invul. The axe can still be better. If you're facing, let's say, Death Guard or something like that, a mirror game, then the axe seems to be the better choice. But we see normally if you're facing toughness 3 or toughness 5 armies or toughness 8 targets, then the sword is better or equal with the axe if the enemy is under the influence of contagion, which I am assuming since you will be in melee. The flail is still worth it compared to both the sword and the axe, so still worth taking in my opinion. More attacks and having a damage 2 potential. The others only have a damage 1, especially against, let's say, something like Thousand Suns that save very well against damage 1 weapons. So it seems all in all to me that with the Blightlords now getting the objective secured and they got the increased durability due to the Armour of Contempt, maybe they will become more a viable option even at 42 points per model, which I hope can be reduced a bit. So maybe it's a good idea to use squads of 5, let's say taking one flail and then using swords for the other. You could even go with axe. It's not super much difference, but the sword seems to be a little bit better, especially if you're facing Armor of Contempt. This squad is 250 points, 15 points, and then the play tactic for Death Guard could be to play aggressively on the primaries, stay on the objectives, preferably in cover with the Armor of Contempt. If you are in cover as well, you would be ignoring up to 2 AP. And then you could with the combi bolters don't do super much, but you can just do actions instead of shooting, and then you can use the melee defensively. You have objective secured. It's not like before a guardsman could come and steal the objective from you easily. And the only thing and you could do actions to score secondaries. The only thing I think we are still where the Armor of Contempt doesn't help, of course, is mortal wounds. Can still be an issue for Terminators. If the opponent can dish out a lot of mortal wounds, we are as little protected as we were before the balanced data slate. So this concludes the data. I hope it has been helpful and gives you some pointers and hints of what weapons to use for your Blightlords. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope you like this video. If you like it, please press like and subscribe to the channel, helping the channel grow once more. If you want to support my efforts, you can visit my Patreon page, yeah, I really appreciate all your comments, and I'm reading all your comments, guys. And so with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye bye.